And she said to the nanny, who she thought was the mother, wow, those are such polite children. And then she looked down and realized who it was. This just recently happened about 2 months ago.
You mentioned the Platinum Jubilee. You got your good friend, Queen Elizabeth, behind you. I loved it so much. You know, a big takeaway from the Platinum Jubilee was Kate's interaction with her children during those, you know, Prince Louis having a normal 3-year-old temper tantrum during the pageant. How do you feel like she handled herself in public with her children?
I thought she did so well. Any parent or person who has a little one in their lives knows how difficult it can be. And she kept her cool. It made her even more relatable and lovable than ever. I think she really kept her cool. She handled him. She corrected him, but yet she didn't cover his mouth. She didn't, back. She didn't do anything that would have been eyebrow raising. She really handled it so graciously and just like a pro, really. I loved it.
Definitely. As a royal etiquette expert, what kind of training do the royal kids have to kind of go through? What kind of things are they expected to at certain events, at dinners and things like that?
So, certain times it's actually been said and known that the children are not undergoing actual etiquette training. The Duchess of Cambridge is actually teaching them herself. So how it works internally is as they are preparing to go meet somebody or get off an airplane, then really the Duchess, she's, I think, been doing a wonderful job of teaching the children and saying, now we're going to meet this person. This is what you do. This is how you curtsy. And what I love is that they're not putting, it doesn't seem like there's any pressure to be something they're not. They're just beautiful little children, and they're showing respect and doing it in the best way that the Duchess and the Duke have known to teach them, really.
Right. It seems like, the glimpses that we've seen of them in public, that they seem as normal as they possibly can be in such an abnormal life.
Yes. And I actually, in Kensington, I have a neighbor who actually saw them with their nanny, the 3 children, walking down Kensington Church Street, which is right kind of next to the palace. And my neighbor was in a rush and she came through, and all 3 children moved to the side, stood in a line and nodded as she came through. And she thought, those are the most polite little children. And she said to the nanny, who she thought was the mother, wow, those are such polite children. And then she looked down and realized who it was. This just recently happened about 2 months ago. And so that is just so telling to me, that story. And of course, my neighbor called me and said, Mike, I have to tell you this. But it just shows they're really well educated.
Yes, no, they really are. I need some of that to rub off on my 3-year-old. I think you've said in interviews before, but you kind of get a sense of Princess Diana in the way that Kate mothers her children as well. I'm sure she probably bases it off of her mother too, but do you see some similarities between Duchess Kate and Princess Diana?
I really do. I think she, what she probably has learned in a sense is how to keep her calm. Princess Diana was under so much stress and so much pressure all the time. And I think we're seeing the Duchess of Cambridge follow that same path of keeping her calm, even maybe in the background, who knows, maybe behind closed doors, doesn't feel like that. But she does an excellent job of not ever letting on to anything but graciousness. And even when you hear paparazzi yelling things at her or questioning her about awkward things, she really keeps her cool. And I think that's something she took from Princess Diana's book, for sure.
Definitely. What was it like training under the royal household?
It was just fascinating because I trained under a former member of the Queen of England's household staff. And during this time, she would teach me something that she would teach. She said, this is what we did with Diana. And to hear that and to think, oh, anyone can learn this. It's not just me, or not just a royal. And then that's kind of where I decided to start teaching royal etiquette as well, because it was one of those things that if I could learn it, the girl from Florida, anyone can learn it.
What is the one thing that everybody wants to learn when they come to you? They're like, what's the one thing that really stands out and screams, this is royal life?
I think it's like the little tiny tips and tricks, like how the duchesses will they'll hold their handbags in their left hand so that they can shake with their right hand, getting in and out of car correctly, ascending or descending a staircase. It's those tiny little tips that you don't even realize until suddenly you learn it. And then you see it every time. And you're like, I know this. Yeah. I'm sitting, of course, I created the term, the Duchess slant, which is, one of my terms I use in all my courses, and just learning these these little tips and techniques that make you feel and look polished, and knowing that you can do it and that you can use these at home. You don't have to be in a palace to use them.
Definitely. What's the most unusual royal protocol, would you say?
I would say the most unusual, I think, oh gosh, there's so many. I would say, I think when you come in, okay, here's one. When you're dining, if you're dining with the queen, for instance, when she puts down her spoon or fork, everyone should also follow suit. So that's one that if you didn't know that, if you didn't have the training, you would think, what is going down? What is everybody finished so fast? And the butlers are pulling away our trays and our plates. And so that's one I always think is quite fun that I teach in my royal etiquette class.
Hey everyone, I'm Christina Garibaldi, the host of Us Weekly Celebrity Coverage. Don't forget to hit subscribe for the latest celebrity news, tips, and video. And for much more content, make sure you head on over to usmagazine.com, the official home of Us Weekly magazine.